All right. That's there. It is 12:15, so I'm going to start. Recording to the cloud.
Tenemos un montón de conductas o de aspectos ambientales a nuestro alrededor que hace muy difícil distinguir.
All right, we'll give it a few minutes. People are pulling in. Good to see everybody coming in. Hello, Susan. Hello, Danielle. Hello, Zaire.
Hello, Rich.
Thanks for joining. I was just going through some of the things with Michael. So we'll give it a couple minutes. I don't expect lots of people to be here, but we'll see.
Richard, anybody, do you know of the group, vocal group called Straight No Chaser? I heard
that
them,
I haven't heard.
It sounds like
started here in Indiana.
Is that right?
Yeah, down by Indiana University. Yep.
I heard them singing 12 Days of Christmas on the radio today, and it was hysterically funny and beautifully sung.
Yes. They're a very talented group.
Yeah, I guess so.
Are they nationwide now, Susan, or?
Pretty much. I haven't kept close tabs. They've been around for a little while. But I'm not real sure.
I gotta look it up now.
Yeah, see if you could find 12 Days of Christmas, because you can't help but laugh when you listen to it. And there's a live audience in the recording that was on the radio, and of course, the audience is in such hysterics. I think they had to stop a few times and just calm down so you could hear them sing more again. It was really fun.
You should be able to find the video to go with it so you can see it. They're pretty clever, very clever.
Oh, good.
Like the first time they did it was in 1998 on the video.
All right. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Well,
that's pretty good.
I'm going to play that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it now, but
yeah, that's good. Well, thanks people for joining today. I thought there was going to be a bunch other people. They said that they were joining, and just given it, I like to start these at 12:15 just to give people some time of getting from one thing to another. But I am recording it, and I'm going to share it with the other people. And several people have sent me wishes and questions that we're going to go through. So it'll be a lot easier to keep people moving and talking as we go through here. So this is our Allen Attractions Focus Group Roundtable. I've been trying to hold these every 2 weeks on Thursdays, but through the summer and the last couple months, things have been coming up, and then I was looking at the calendar. So this is the last one for 2021, and we'll get together again in 2022 in January. But as you can see, Dr. Michael Allen is on here. One of the key quotes that he's always said is success comes from doing the right things at the right times. And that's true with a lot of the things that I've seen being with the company over the years, which leads me to Dr. Allen's other quote. And this is a quote that I originally heard him say 25 years ago in one of the speeches he had given on aha. What is your aha on e-learning, and what should you see and where'd you go? And it in 25 years ago, it was my second aha moment. My first one was 50 years ago when I was delivering Sunday Tribune papers and Sunday Sun Times that had to weigh at least 2 pounds a piece. So it was my introduction of being customer service sales type things, and trained by my sister that you need to take this 2-pound paper and put it right by the door as people come out on Sunday, and make sure that it's protected by paper or by of the weather. Then my second aha moment was, well, second that I like to talk about is when I joined with Allen Interactions, and I was helping sell our training services or tools of Authware and Photoshop and Director. But I sat in on the Authware training class, and Ethan Edwards or Dan Thornton were teaching Authware and showing how to create a simple learning on how to go through and use a single reflex camera, SLR camera, which was really interesting to me because I said, oh, this is really interesting because I've never seen any experience training besides maybe videos, but mostly on textbooks and stuff like that on how to use things. So that was a really great introduction into that. So there's not a lot of us here, but I was going to ask Dr. Allen what his first aha moments are, and then if you put in the chat what might be your aha on your learning organization, just share with the other people here. We'd be good, and we can discuss that. So, Dr. Allen, what was maybe one of your first aha moments in your experiences?
Yeah, well, maybe there's an aha about aha, and that's that. I think that what we need to strive to do in all of the learning programs we build and design is to set up potential aha moments for our learners, where it just clicks for them. They see something from a new perspective. They have new knowledge that allows them to assess the situation, and they kind of say to themselves, "Oh, I get it. I get it." It's a physically and mentally rewarding experience that kind of leaves a stamp on us, I think, and hopefully a good one. And there are so many aha moments in my life, but one of them is when I was trying to design tools to help people create better learning experiences. And I had worked with IBM for a number of years on their system. It was called CourseWriter. Then I was director of R&D for the Plato system, which was so very capable, way ahead of its time. But it had a unique programming language that was difficult for most people to learn. And many educators have no interest in learning a programming language anyway, whether it's a good programming language or not. And it was in that context that I came up against object-oriented programming. And that was sort of the aha for me, in that I was also, I was director of the Artificial Intelligence Lab at CDC, and we were doing a lot of work in AI. And what was really kind of fun about some of the tools we were using then is that you could just write production rules. You could write if then statements. If this is true, then that, if that, and you could just throw them in a bucket, and out came the performance of the system. It made mistakes. And so when you saw a mistake, you'd write another rule, say, oh, but if this mistake occurs, then do that. And you just throw it in the bucket. And the development of it was so different from the general programming approaches that we use, that I started focusing on this object-oriented thing. And the thing that was peculiar to me was that people were using syntactical programming structures for this object-oriented notion that in your head, you really saw as objects, but you weren't drawing objects. And so I thought, why don't we create something that's in lieu of a programming language, but it's as powerful as that, where you'd actually draw objects. You'd actually have a visual thing that you would see on the screen, and then you would attach behaviors to it, and you would have those behaviors trigger on certain conditions. And that was the big aha moment for me, is that, we actually can do that. And that led to Authorware, which is, as many people know, it had nearly 100% of the e-learning market for a number of years. Everybody was using Authorware, and I was so pleased that people with no programming background at all were creating experience-based learning with that set of tools. So, longer story, I'm sure, than you wanted, but it's
that's perfect, because that also reminds me that one of the first trade show conferences I went to, it was in Indianapolis, where I think it was in Indianapolis, but anyways, that it was an ATD trade show. And at that time, again, this was 98, 99, but it's like most of the people, the training groups or people who were looking for things, were instructor-based training, and they weren't working on training that Allen Interactions did. So, which 75% of the people that were at the conference were looking at ways of doing instructor-based or front of the class type training, not e-learning. So how things have changed, but I think that a lot of it had to do with people using Authorware or other tools that are similar to it, but pretty much, like you said, lots of people were doing that. So, and Zarir, I like your aha moment too. Can you just say a little bit more about that? That's a different point of view, which is great. So
yeah, so my background is primarily technology and leading technology groups in a lot of different companies. And one of the things that I had to frequently do was put new systems in place, new ERPs. And invariably, as you were plugging along trying to get this thing implemented, you had a lot of resistance from the team members. And I could never figure out, why are you resisting this? We were all on board. We all wanted this. Why are you making it slow down? Why are you not willing to change the process to fit the tool? Things like that. And the aha was, it's like they were actually ill prepared, and they didn't want to look silly when that system came online and not have the answers that they used to have. Mm-hmm. And so that was causing them, they probably didn't even realize they were doing it, but was causing them to slow it down till they got prepared, till they got up to speed on the system and felt confident in their role again. And that led me to this idea that, what if we trained them before to say, here's what that future state's going to look like before we go into it, so that they feel very well prepared, and then they can actually support the process and the implementation based on what that vision is going to be and how it should work. And so that was kind of my aha, just being in the trenches on some of those initiatives. And then I'll add another one, since I've got the floor and I love to talk. So sorry. But when I joined Allen Interactions, I think it was about 3 years ago, I had another huge aha, and that was around this experience-based training. So most of my career, 30 some years in corporate America, was all about tell and test learning. You got this PowerPoint with a voiceover. You had a next button that was deactivated till it was done talking. And so you couldn't even move through this content. And I was aware of it, but it certainly didn't stick. I didn't get immersed in it. I didn't understand, I went through the motions, right? And took the test, got my checkbox in the HR database or whatever, and on I went with whatever I was doing regardless. So it was absolutely a waste of time, but I didn't know any better because it was, compliance training. And it kind of relates to what Susan was saying. You got a classroom full of people and the supervisor saying, ignore it all and do it this way anyway. I think that happens a lot in corporate America. We're wasting the learner's time. So my aha was, excuse me, my aha was, you learn more from your failures than you ever do from your successes as you go through life. And we were just talking at lunch about college and what I learned in college compared to what I learned on the first 2 weeks on the job through experience. And it was so much more meaningful and it was applicable and things like that. And so my head just completely switched. And my belief was, if you experience things, if you're challenged and you actually are allowed to fail safely, you learn a lot better and a lot faster. And it's retained in long-term memory. And so that was another aha that I thought I would share.
That's perfect. Susan, since we have such a huge crew, I'm gonna ask you and Daniel to give us your ahas. So Susan first.
Okay, so I think I just gave the setup for my aha, not what the aha was. But so I've also been involved with a lot of system implementations over time, and as well as some soft skill training and new hire curricula. I've been in it a long time, but I began to realize you mentioned the waste of learners' time, where we would spend lots of development time, analysis time, and everything, and we would forget the full context of the learner, that they don't just learn in a vacuum. They're going to go back to work and they're going to work on a line or in a warehouse or at a counter with a group, and there's going to be the culture around them. And so my aha was, I can't just think of that moment of learning. That's very important, or they're not going to learn. But it always has to be in this broader context, and it's not really going down the path of social learning. But I can't get rid of that aspect, and how just absolutely important it has been that in the design, in the development, to make sure that full context is incorporated. That was my aha, and continues to be. I'm still figuring it out.
That's fantastic. Daniel, can you share a aha moment?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I would say that it's an ongoing moment when I read, I see these books with this smiling guy, Michael Allen. It dragged my attention because why this guy is smiling, and it promised me successful learning. I'm going to read it. And since then, it has been many aha moments. For example, the fact that you don't need a question, a typical question with a question and 4 options, but instead you try to create an experience where when people choose a course of action and it has consequences. Well, I think that has been an aha moment, and I try to replicate that philosophy in my courses with some successes, sometimes not very successful, but I try to apply that philosophy.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
And I just, it's just coincidental, Daniel, but I'm so glad you used the phrase course of action, because the first version of Authorware that we put on the market was actually called Course of Action. Yeah. And it was just to promote that idea that we wanted learners being active and not just choosing the letter C, because generally C is the correct answer on a multiple choice question.
Yes, or the longest option.
Yeah, I have the longest option. Absolutely. Always look for that first. Rich?
So yes, well, and that's great. I thought that as soon as you were saying that too, as far as course of action, I learned that as far as the history of authorware too. It's like that's amazing. So another topic, and this is all what I'm going to be doing, and set in the recording. I'm going to send it out because we have about 35 people who we have as this focus group. So I'm going to send this out there and ask for other questions. But another thing that I was thinking of this morning as I was thinking about what to talk about or how to move things through is that I don't know how many people might know of what Allen Interactions mission statement was. So I figured I'd Google it. And I already did this with Michael, but Zurer being part of Allen Interactions, I hope he knows what it is. I've heard him say it quite a few times, but very, very exciting news to me is that when I put in there Allen Interactions mission statement, or when I did it again and put in what is Allen Interactions mission statement, it came up with our mission statement. And the thing this has been, again, all the time I've been with Allen Interactions, our mission statement. So I don't know how far back before that it was, which when I started, the company was 3 or 4 years old. So it in the mind of Dr. Allen, it could have gone back farther. But another book that I'm reading along with our marketing team is They Ask You Answer. And a big point of what the readers talks about in that is that everybody in the company is teaching people on what their customers need, not what our company does, but what our customers need. So it's another reason for this focus group meeting is that I want to find out from people what they're looking for, where they're going, and where they're coming from there. So, Dr. Allen, do you have any other comments about our mission statement?
Well, every word was chosen pretty deliberately. And we so many people think that training is all about disseminating information. And I don't view it that way at all. I'm wanting to help people achieve more of their potential and feel better about themselves, more confident in their work, better paid because they're able to add more value and so on. So we reviewed all of those things, trying to figure out how to put this in a sentence of reasonable length, and realized that we really, really care about the human mind and spirit. And we want to enhance that through helping people be more successful in whatever they do. So that's the thinking behind this statement.
Yeah, and we at Allen Interactions are training people all the time from the Allen Academy, and when we're working on projects with people, we're teaching them how to do things, how to build things, and then just in the content that we try and put out on our website and what Dr. Allen and Ethan Edwards and a host of other people do when they're at speaking events, we're always trying to show people the best path to do things with. So, which brings me to our list of what I asked people to send to me, and we could either talk about or just look at and think about is wishes and questions for what I call the e-learning Santa, which, if you don't know by this time, it's Dr. Allen, and other Allen Interactions L's, me and Zurir, Mike Ruska was on here, and other people may see this, but it's really thoughts again, like aha moments or what have you. So this first one was basically having learning be more experience based. And again, my history with Allen Interactions, I don't see how any computer based or screen based learning can be anything but experience based, because I can't get through. Several years ago, I took the AIRP advanced driver test to go through that. It took me about a week to go through, because all it was videos of different things and then questions and answers about what I saw in the videos. So it's very, very, very boring, and I couldn't bear watching much of it. So it took me a week to go through stuff. And now they want me to do it again because it's been 4 years since I've done that. Then this one's sort of the same, e-learning projects that enable the development of higher order skills. Now, I'm not sure who had done this, but it's, and any comments on this from anybody as far as what that means to them? Because these are all things that I think that have been done at one level or another, but it's just a matter of what people are thinking and going with that. Any thoughts?
I often divide I divide in a very simplistic way the outcomes that we usually want in training into 3 buckets. The first and lowest level is we want people to be able to follow instructions accurately and correctly. So we've defined a process, procedure. We want people to just do that. Lowest level. The middle level is we want you to be able to do that, but without having those instructions available to you. So it's all internalized and you can still do it, but you don't need the checklist or whatever form it may be put in. And then the third level is we would like to see you perform as if you're expert. There's a big jump between those two. But then when I look at the training programs that people design, well, in the lowest level, follow instructions, they give people the instructions. In the middle level, they give people the instructions and instruction about instructions. That is, they give them instructions on how to use the instructions. And for the expert level, they tell people more. It's all about telling people stuff. Well, to build expertise, you really need to be able to encounter situations you haven't seen before and determine which principles are applicable or not. And so how do you get people to do that? It's not just by giving them more information like you do for the people who are just supposed to follow those instructions. What you have to do is you have to give people a variety of situations that you haven't explicitly trained them on and see if they can figure out what would be the best way to handle that. And so you need a whole bunch of varied situations that have different parameters in them and have people try to come up with an effective solution and see the consequences of actions that they've taken. And through repeating that, eventually you generalize those concepts, and now you're ready to take on more challenges than you've ever been explicitly trained for. So that's how we get to the higher order skills, is that we take that path, not by giving people more instruction about how to use the instructions.
Yeah, and that's very good, because it just led me to think, and also Daniel's comment on chat is that we had a conversation earlier this week with a group in California that wants a proposal submitted for immunization program that they want to be putting in next fall, and they had seen the piece that we've done for truck driver railroad safety, and then I sent them information that we had done for the Center for Disease Control a while ago on Ebola and tracking that down, and then also the piece that we did for police officer safety training, which was first responders, and all of those was really getting into what Dr. Allen was saying. It's like getting people through to find out whether or not they really know what they're doing, and making sure that it comes across right. Because why train somebody if, again, back to Susan's point, is that, oh, don't worry about what you got in training. This is the way you're supposed to be doing it. So and again, experience-based training seems so much more accurate, and I've used the term because I've talked to lots of people, that it's really on the job training, because everything that I've ever seen us do is pretty much how I learned how to do things through life, is on the job training. And if I would have had a training course that would show me and have me do the things I was doing, I probably would have picked it up a lot faster. So next, we have access to knowledge and good practice in the field of e-learning, training design. There's a lot of theoretical knowledge tips, but most interesting examples are not available. That is an issue like right now with Allen Interactions, because again, those examples or those projects that I talked about were all done in Flash. So we do have newer ones, other ones, but any time, and we keep on trying to show people and tell people what's out there and what can be done. And I keep on trying to find people who have done things that are exciting. But at any time, the people that are here and anybody who's listening to this, anytime that they want to see an example of something that is truly experience based, please let us know, because we've got lots of things, either recorded videos or what have you. And also, I let anybody share what you have, because it's just the interactions that are most important. It's my two favorites, and some of the people that have come and gone, that another one of our first examples that we did, first Flash examples, was done for ERP program on, we call it Day in the Life, but really doing a conversation model. And I thought that was really good, because it really ties into what is it that you need to be talking to your people about. Feel free to jump in, anybody, other things. So
I a little bit, Rich,
go ahead.
to the last one. I think, the models and things are really, or the demos are really interesting, but they're not necessarily applicable across the board, right? So they spark ideation and things like that. But the core of our philosophy is around, context, challenge, activity, feedback, and following that pathway, right? And making sure that you're doing those steps. That is kind of the model that we're trying to profess. And then we have examples of how you do that. But I think if you follow that methodology or that framework, I think it will lead to more success than, I'm just going to ask a bunch of questions and do multiple choices, Daniel said.
Exactly. And that's true. Because another thing I was thinking about is like the context of everything. Once I again learned about our CCF model, is like the idea of context is always key. And then I see that in everything in life. Why do you go, like when people ask me, why did you go see this movie or something like that? And it comes back to thinking about it, but it was the context of what the movie was about. It's like I've been to plenty of movies where I've sat through them and it's like, okay, well, that wasn't even entertaining, so it was a waste of time. But there's other things that are fit in there, so it all goes in. Now, I like this next one, valuable groups and discussions, like AI roundtable discussions. That's a nice wish, and I'm hoping that we continue to go through this, and I continue to have people showing up and talking more. This one's a hard request and question, and I don't know if Dr. Allen or any of you guys have things to it. How to convince SMEs that Allen methods are great and worth the time and energy investment to create awesome e-learning. It's an age-old question. It's about 80 years old. So,
yeah. I mean, the way I look at this, purely from a business lens, or even a SME lens on things that I would be a SME on, would be what's better, right? Do you want to waste your time and the learner's time, or do you want to do something that's effective? That's the core issue and belief that you need to shift. For me, the evidence itself, just from regular life, right, would say that experiences are much better at conveying skill than just awareness of the subject. Dr. Allen, I'll defer to you, obviously.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's not only SMEs that can push back. It's others. I want this training done right away because we have to roll out a product and we don't have time, or we don't have the resources, whether it's financial or the people. There are so many reasons to justify, or so many ways to justify poor training. Yes, there's no creativity required. It's just people can do this all the time. SMEs in particular, I think that's interesting that someone called them out, because SMEs tend to be so focused on the content, and they want to make sure that everybody knows what they know. Gloria Gary, who was prominent in our field for so many years, made a statement that just, maybe one of those aha moments, Rich, for me, when she said, employers don't really care what you know, they care what you do. They don't care if you're expert. They only care if you perform your job as if you were expert. And those statements have stuck with me for all these decades, thinking about that, because I think she's right about that. And sometimes through modifying a system and building more aids and more smarts in a system, people can learn them faster. There's less cognitive load. You can get up and running more quickly, and that's a good solution. And we have engineers who are really talented at making systems better, and so we don't push learning when learning isn't necessary or the best solution. But another way that I look at this to ask people is, what is the most unaffordable training? What can your budget not stand? And often they'll say something like, flying everybody into a training center and having a faculty of trainers and all of that sort of thing. And I'll say, yeah, that's pretty expensive, isn't it? But there's something that's even more expensive that I'll bet you're almost ready to buy. And they say, well, no. It's a trick question, of course. The answer is, the most expensive training is training that doesn't work. So whatever you spend on it is money down the drain. And so is all of the time that your employees spend in that training that isn't benefiting them. So also is the cost of poor performance and missed opportunity and returned products and so on. All of those things go into the cost bucket. And you're ready to sign up for those costs. Wow, you guys must be rich. But there are ways to really cut those training costs down tremendously. And that's developing some training that really has impact. And so our three key indicators: is it meaningful, is it memorable, and is it motivational? And if any one of those is zero, you wasted your time. So if people didn't understand it, it obviously doesn't help them any. If they can't remember it when they're out there performing their job and so forth, they're going to do what they've always done before that they can do and can remember. If they're not motivated to upgrade the way they tackle problems or perform whatever the task is, then they're right back where they were before the training. And so that was money wasted as well. So that's how I try to convince people, by taking them through that thought, that just throwing information at people with the assumption that if people have read this or heard it or even understand it, that they now are equipped to perform better, is a big, risky assumption. And unless you have given people an opportunity to demonstrate that they are now skilled at the level you need them to, how can you have any confidence that throwing this information at them got them to that point? You just can't have any. So that works sometimes. Or
And
also showing people really bad training and then good training on the same content and say, now, which do you think your company would benefit from the most? You know, that could work pretty well too.
yeah, that sometimes works. It's but they don't realize that in some cases. And this one is a general wish as far as how to create e-learning faster. And we have lots of things that we've talked about and done. It's again, it's all relative in time as far as what they mean by faster, because that's the whole idea behind the Allen interaction, the SAM process, is successive approximation. You're pushing things through and looking at them faster. I still have people saying, is this going to take 2 years to create? And I can't guarantee anything, but most everything I've seen Allen interactions do doesn't take 2 years to build. So
no, and Zarir brought up the CCAF, and one of the things that's so attractive about that, I think, is that it's simple, it's straightforward, and you don't have to waste a lot of time trying to find effective instructional paradigms, because that one works pretty much 100% of the time. It's just really effective. So you just need to populate those 4 cells of the context, the challenge, and the activity, and the feedback, and you're done.
and that moves things along so much faster too. So and I'm not sure what was meant by this one, but best meet the learner's need with interactions that are meaningful to the end goal. And I believe this goes back to what Dr. Allen said with the first one, as far as higher ends and getting people moving through the process and getting at showing them the training or getting them through courses at different levels till they get to expertise. So really breaking it down and moving that way.
I could comment on that one
Okay.
quickly too, Rich, and that's that. And I guess another aha moment for me was that I think we design backwards, and so we should flip it around. That is, we usually start our design work with the basic concepts, with the terms, with the history, with the whys. These things are important and so on. And by the time we get toward the end of the training, where everything integrates together and we're hoping that people are ready to go out on the job, we're tired. You know, the schedule may be exhausted, the budget may be waning, and now we need to pull together probably the most sophisticated aspect of our training program, and lots of times it gets cut short. So that's why I really advocate flipping it around and designing the last training experiences that would tell you that someone is ready to go out on the job and perform well, designing those and building those first. When your energy is high, when your creativity is high, when you're really excited about creating this program. So that's one reason. Another reason is that once you've done that level, you can usually pull out pieces of it now and make those training modules to have more a narrow focus as steps on the ladder toward getting to this end learning experience. So if you're focused on that end goal of somebody being proficient at the end of training, and that's where you start your development, you're likely to hit your goal.
That is That's perfect, and that's another thing that I've picked up over the years. Is I tell people you got to start with the end to get there. Otherwise, you'll never get there. You don't know what you're going to. So then, recognize value, learners' motivation, and experience shape learner experience to maximize time value of learning. Again, this I believe, and these are all my opinions, but just things that I've heard throughout time is that experience-based learning, really knowing what the experience is and putting people into those experiences is what you want to shape the learning experience as. There's so many things. It's like being in the role that I am as far as talking to people initially, a lot of times I'll tell them, well, if you're trained, and they'll ask, well, how long are the training modules going to be? I sometimes say, well, how long does the task take when they're actually doing it? So if somebody, back to what Dr. Allen just said, is that if the task takes somebody 15 minutes to do, then if somebody who knows what they're doing should be able to go through your training module task in 15 minutes. If they don't know what to do, then you go back to the first thing is first you're showing them what they're supposed to be doing, then seeing and helping them do it, and then going through it. So maybe that's 15 minutes 3 times. So it's 3/4 of an hour. So maybe an hour for that module to go through it and really know what they're doing. But the best thing is if like a week from then they didn't pass it and didn't do it again, they can always go back and go through the training again. So it's not like a story, again, back to that ATD conference or ASTD conference where I was talking to people at ATD or AT&T that they had, and they're still out there, big training labs. And there's one here in Chicago, a ComEd training lab, where they're out in a field. And at the time, AT&T was saying that they created e-learning because they were using whatever, a $1 million switch that a repair person had to pull out the old one and put in the new one. So and they were live like switches, and it wasn't a dummy switch or anything. So if anything went wrong and they burnt that out, they burned out $1 million in their training. So they created e-learning on taking them through all this experience and process to switch out that $1 million piece. That's my thoughts. Oh, this one's really good. And I see it's 1:02, so we're running out of time.
I've got to run to another session, but thanks so much for inviting me. Really.
All right. Thank you, Zarir.
Yep. Take care,
Thanks
guys.
for your input.
You bet. Bye.
And I won't keep people any longer, but this is a big wish. I've heard this several times, and right to Dr. Allen is that wish that Michael Allen's Guide to E-Learning 2nd edition was available as an audiobook and read by the author.
I have to learn to read first.
Oh, that's good. But these are all things. There are more, but we're up to the 1:02 Central Time here, so I won't keep you guys and keep Dr. Allen any longer. Though, as I was thinking about this, we could spend probably 2 or 3 hours asking and talking about these things and figuring out other ways that people have made experience-based learning better. And Dr. Allen, what was your name for e-learning now?
XEL. Yeah, experience-based e-learning. Yeah, XEL or Excel. Yeah,
Excel.
Yeah.
So, and that sounds that has so many connotations put into there as far as people. We need to get people to excel at their jobs. So it's performance is an overused word, but really excelling at what you're doing and moving forward. So I appreciate all your time. Any final comments, Dr. Allen?
Well, Susan, Daniel, I'm so glad that you came to talk with us today. And I hope it was worth your time. I don't know where all the other folks were, but
Yeah, I don't know,
I'm
but
so
I
glad we're
will.
here.
I will send this recording to other people, and they'll miss they'll. I'm sure they'll be sorry that they missed
Oh, I'm
being
sure.
able to join us, but I'm sure it's like it changes every time. So, but I want to keep on going, keep people joining, because I had actually 2 people from Poland saying that they were gonna want to come, but and they have joined in the past, but sometimes the time zones and time differences throw people off too. So, but it's great, and I'm really glad that you're here, because in overall it just answers a bunch of questions that are always out there, that helps us and helps others think about things more. So, well, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Yes, my cursor.
Bye.